All right, so I guess it's my turn. This is kind of might be a long sort of segment here. I, in preparation for today, just plugged in atheist and women in Google, and just the results themselves were interesting to me, what came up. And so here are some of the things. Atheists who are women, religion in America, and that's just the Pew Forum thing. But black atheists matter. Many women are, quote, in the closet, unquote, atheists. 50 top atheists, blah, blah. Something about Madeleine Marie O'Hare. Women atheists are genuinely considered monsters. Did anybody read that in The Atlantic?
No.
Women atheists are genuinely considered monsters. And that was written in 2016. That's the other interesting thing, is to look at the years that these are written, because it vacillates back and forth, it seems like. Dating while black and atheist. Brazen sexism is pushing women out of America's atheism movement, and that's in 2016 again. So there seemed to be a real, downturn in opinion of women in atheism in that year or something. Lots of articles about that. Atheism's shocking woman problem. What's behind the misogyny? And of course, that is the recent Me Too, etc. Why millennial women are embracing atheism. So it turns a corner and goes the other way. And then why aren't there more women atheists? It goes back and forth. So let's see, there were a couple of articles that grabbed me the most. Where are all the atheist women? And here's one, sexy atheist women. Guess, I clicked on it, it's clickbait. Sexy atheist women. They had, who were under 40. Jesus Christ. So guess who they had? Guess who they were? Movie stars.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That's important.
Oh, yeah.
That's important. Living Without God, Female Atheists and Stigma. And another, Black Atheists Matter, How Women Free Thinkers Take on Religion. Okay, so one of the articles was in an actual journal, and it was called Sovereign of Herself, Women's Narratives of Lived Atheism, by Marta. I'm going to screw this name up. It is very, it's got lots of consonants and not very many vowels. I'm going to spell it. Trzebiatowska. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. And this article rolled it all up into a nice, neat package for me. Because a lot of the research that you can find out there about women atheists are the activists, the people who are kind of in your face, or just raw numbers where 3/4 of atheists are men and 1/4 of the nuns, so to speak. There's a lot of research on nuns, the N-O-N-E, N-O-N-Es, not the N-U-Ns. But looking at women who self-identify as atheists and are not activists, they are just out there in the world the same way most women who go to church just go to church, sort of thing. And she did research. She interviewed 20 women from all over the world who qualified for this, and what she found, I thought, was really important. The reason the search came back with all over the board stuff is because we really don't understand this yet. There's a lot to learn. And she says, she's starting the ball rolling, basically. We need to understand the very most basic thing first. There's a quote in the article that I just love by Eva Ingersoll, Robert Ingersoll's daughter. And she described the future woman who will belong to no church, will be fettered by no senseless formula or puerile dogma. She will be sovereign of herself, free and fearless in thought, word, and deed. Ooh, shivers up my spine. Good stuff. So the participants were all self-identified atheists with no propensity for activism. They were just people living lives. And it focused on a number of themes. One was the process of and reasons for becoming an atheist, the societal attitudes to atheists, the link between atheism, well-being, and morality cross-culturally, and atheist activism. So there was, that's what most research, that's what most research focuses on, those things. Let me just, the reasons why people become atheists, societal attitudes, and that sort of thing. That's the old stuff. She's talking about, I'm sorry, I said that in the wrong order. She's talking about what she wants to look at the very most basic level. One of the things that jumped out at this woman, at Marta T., sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, was that atheist women are very clear in their beliefs. There's no, well, I kind of believe in a God, but I don't know what to call it, equivalent for these atheist women. It's just, I'm atheist, period.
Right.
God, no apologies there, no, like, I'm just kind of thinking about it or whatever. So that I thought was very interesting. Let's see. There was no script when she interviewed the people, but she said, here's the thing that's important, I thought. Most sociology of everyday life focuses on actions or doings of the individuals and groups under scrutiny. Aspects of social behavior which are labeled as absences or a lack escape our attention. And that's the thing about atheism that a lot of even atheists miss, I think. When people call in to the Atheist Experience, when people say, what defines an atheist? What's the pat answer, ladies? Because you both get this question all the time. What's the pat answer? What's the thing that makes an atheist an atheist?
Just don't believe a God
Don't believe in
exists.
God. This article talks about how it's more than that.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. It's not just not believing. It's a bunch of other things that go with it. Because if you are an atheist, and especially if you're a woman, that has an impact on how you live.
Yes.
And so she talks about these things, and I'm like, yes, let's start at the very most basic level. This article is brilliant. Let me get to one of the things that very much influences how women in particular, and of course she did not interview men, but I have the sense that women have a different experience because A, women are supposed to keep the religion in a household or in the world. They are the keeper of all things religious, generally speaking. Mom is the religious rock of the family sort of thing. And also we're supposed to be polite, and we can't hurt people's feelings or step on people's ideas and things like that. And so that influences how women can go about their business in the world.
Historically, the women's role in society has been to be the civilizing influence on
There you go.
the brutes who are the men.
Right. And religion was seen as that whip and chair,
yes.
And it's just, so the women she talked to, some of the things they said were very pithy. I loved it. If you one of the women, if you separate faith, which I obviously don't agree with, from other beliefs and views, I don't agree with them on anything. They tend to be very patriarchal, intolerant of differences and minorities, and these things work like a red rag to a bull for me. I can't talk to them, so I try not to interact with them. The fact is, this woman is saying, and I see this in my world too, if you are an atheist, there's usually, more often than not, kind of a worldview-ish that goes with it. I know there are atheists who believe ridiculous things and who are on the other end of the scale on things. But this woman reflects what I think a lot of women's experiences is, and that is that religious people tend to have a worldview that is not going to work with my sort of worldview, just in general. So, and I'm glad, really.
I just let me correct real quickly. Like, I would probably tend to express that as being an atheist in a society where religion is important.
Yes.
Will definitely influence your experience in that society. I do think that not believing in God gets you in the club and you are an atheist, and that's really all it takes.
Right.
But the influence that it has on you, so for example, we get letters from people who are like, I live in such and such country and everybody's secular and it's like nothing to me. But the more religious your society becomes and the greater, like we were just talking about the narrative, the more religion owns the narratives, the harder it is to be atheist in the society, and the bigger those, the more grotesque those narratives become about you, it just becomes more and more difficult, up to the point where if I open my mouth and say I don't believe, I could be killed, right? So there's societies that go to that extreme. And so just to kind of head off, because I can already, hear the flood of, wait, that's not atheism. It is an influence in what you're going to experience when you don't accept a prevailing social belief that is promoted in like a really strong way and that demonizes your demographic.
Right. So I agree, and it's where I'm going with this. You said there's a narrative if you're religious.
Sure.
There is a narrative if you're not religious.
Yeah, it leaks out into the society for sure. It becomes. I mean, we consider ourselves a secular society for the most part. I mean, there's religious people that argue that, but I think even most religious people understand separation of church and state and why it's important.
Well, yeah, I think most do.
And so when I'm losing my train of thought. What were you just saying before?
That there is, yes.
The narrative that comes
being an atheist means one thing.
Right.
You don't believe in any sort of God.
Oh, the secular leeching of these ideas. So, yeah, I mean, when people say, like, it's a Christian nation, obviously I don't agree with the idea that we should be founded on any religious principles. But I can't deny the big, heavy lift that religion has, hoisted onto the entire society, to the point that like everything we consider to be norms are based on religiously influenced ideas from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. Atheists are vilified, and just yesterday,
and whether you're religious or not, there's a pretty big chance that you're either accepting some of these concepts without even questioning, because it's like a social construct by now, or that you actually have bought into some of this stuff, bought into the secular, veneer of arguments that they sort of paint over and gloss over these religious views with. Yeah.
And I know that part of the problem, and one of the things that I love about this article, is that these women were willing to say, I'm an atheist. Just talking to someone yesterday who said, well, I don't really believe in God, but blah, blah, blah. And so I consider myself agnostic. I said, really, if you don't believe in God, you can stop right there and say you're an atheist. And she physically recoiled. And I'm like, it's not a bad word. It just means what it means. And so normalizing, like you say, and becoming part of our own narrative.
I would like to just mention that I have never seen this before, but this weekend at the convention, I was just hanging out with Foundation Beyond Belief. I was like hanging at their table for a little while.
On.
Yeah. And so a guy came up to talk to us and said, he was having he'd never been to a conference before, didn't know whether he was atheist or not. His friends are atheists, and they keep telling him he's an atheist. And I said, well, here's a question for you. Do you accept it as true that a God exists? And he said, no. And I said, okay, then you're an atheist. Welcome.
Yeah.
Well, this disturbed him a lot. And he seemed very confused, very anxious, was describing like a lot of anxiety. I couldn't understand it, because he's like, well, then, what next? And I said, what do you mean, what next? Nothing's changed. You're still the same person you were before there was this late. And he's like, but I just don't feel like I am an atheist. Like, and he said, basically he started to describe that his friends had told him, oh, this means you have to reject all kinds of things that aren't scientifically proven. And you have to, and I was like, no, wait. You don't have to do anything. It's just a label that describes your position on this question. You don't accept it as true, so you don't believe it. That's fine. You're not saying it's false. You seem very, very agnostic in this position. Eventually, one of the women at Foundation Beyond Belief, Noelle, was at the table, and she took on the conversation because I was having difficulty understanding where all this discomfort was coming from. But he was clearly upset. And she started to talk to him a little bit and sort of took that over. I've never seen somebody have that reaction, but he was confused. I would say confused, anxious, scared. I don't know how all to like define what I was looking at. He was like a mess.
Which I think is obviously, someone had convinced him that being an atheist means all of these other things, by definition. And I think that's why it's important for us to control the narrative of, who we are.
Yeah.
Because somebody had fed him a line of bullshit. Now,
Right.
It was probably a bunch of other atheists who got themselves wrapped up in this idea that, oh, we're atheists, that means we're rational, we're smarter than the religious people, all these other nonsense ideas that have percolated through organized atheism and
I felt really
atheism.
bad for the guy. Like I wanted badly to help him, but I could not understand what had suddenly changed in his head.
I'm wondering, that sort of narrative that you're talking about that the atheists were trying to foist on this fledgling atheist, is that really the atheist narrative, or is that what religious...
I think she's saying it's a atheist narrative or an atheist narrative.
Yeah, but that comes from ignorance, and so it seems like it comes from the other side.
It actually, and maybe Tracie was going to talk about this later, but about this alt-right intersection between certain atheist groups and...
I didn't have a speech prepared for that, so feel free.
There's an article about how there's far too many atheists, kind of dabbling in the alt-right movement. And, I mean, part of it is this idea, I guess there was a study published a while back whose methodology was very poor, that suggested that atheists are more intelligent than religious people. Right. And there's a lot of people out there that think that they've gotten, because they've arrived at the correct answer to the easiest question out there, that they are more rational and, more able to use the scientific method and, they are just the bestest out there now.
Same person, same
and
brain.
That it extends to everything else. And so I think that narrative comes with a whole lot of baggage. Because if you're brand new to atheism and you know that, maybe your religious background has influenced your ability to use critical thinking skills, that's a skill.
Yeah.
It has to be developed. It's not something that you either have or you don't. And so they come into this thinking, I guess, feeling that they're kind of inadequate. And it's not that they're inadequate, it's that they just need more practice doing some things that they never got a chance to do when they were religious.
It's been shut down.
Yeah.
In very effective ways.
And that's not a character flaw on their part. It's not their fault. It was just a lack of practice. If nobody ever taught me to throw a football, and I tried to throw a football for the first time,
I can't throw a football.
I'd suck at it, But if I was sitting there thinking, gosh, I'll never be in the NFL, and I got all depressed over that, it's like, well, that's not the only thing out there,
Plenty of other things, like engineering amazing things.
And just to say, like, scanning these articles, like I pulled up the Atlantic article on, female atheists and the monstrosity of female atheism. And it's kind of was hitting on something Jen said about women being the gatekeepers, the religious gatekeeper. And what the article was basically saying is that because of that role, that expectation of women in society, in our society, that they are sort of the gatekeepers of all things modest and all things chaste, and all that. When you have a woman that's an atheist and you divorce her from that narrative of religion gives you morality, religion gives you your foundations, religion gives you all these wonderful things, you can't love without God, and so it sort of strips her of all our cultural trappings of femininity, right? Because all these things feminine, she's not maternal, she's not loving, she's not moral, she's not modest, she's not, they like divorce her from all these things, which even though every atheist is divorced from that, like Jen was saying, we don't have that expectation most often for the narrative of males in the culture. It's sort of like, you know, they have this horrible narrative on them that they're all like pigs and dogs, and, you know, it's like these awful things that we just like, oh, we have no expectations here, and it's hideous, right? But and then on the other hand, women, although there's these glowing expectations, that's sort of like a gilded cage. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a horror of its own, because you don't dare step out of that, because then you are you're worse than the dog and the pig, and you know, you're like you've just fallen from grace, like utterly. And then when I get into this other article, right, the research piece at the secularismandnonreligion.org, and I just kind of read through the conclusion, because we just, you know, I was presented with this just before the show, and so I did get a chance to read through the conclusions. And one of the things that I found was interesting was the categorization of the non-action as agency, right? Like choosing not to act is a choice. And I have to respect the choices of these people. I will say that there's a big part of me that if I could, you know, have my wish, what it's describing is that these women in the study that expressed inaction, and they're you know, that did not respond to these things. They felt angry, and they would step out when they felt it was egregious enough to do so. But in the meantime, they just kind of tried to keep their head low, keep the peace. I'm not going to bring this up. And I know women like this, right? Like I have women friends who are really, really great people. I mean, people that are that accommodating, it's hard not to like them. You know, it's like they're just concerned with other people's comfort. They're concerned with other people being happy. They want to make sure that they're not being rude or mean or nasty and make you feel bad. I mean, these are people that everybody likes. I mean, these women, when I introduce them, everybody likes them. And they're atheists. But to them, it's this thing. I just keep my head down. I don't really go there. Now, a few of them have families and have had to draw boundaries with family, and they did, like this article's talking about, when it came to like their kids or the family sending them religious crap. Or, I mean, at one point there was a woman, they moved and they didn't give the address to the husband's family. They were just like, you know what? They don't need to know where we live now because we can't stop the flood of religious crap. And so,
what is it you say about family, Jen?
Hey. If you act like family, you are family.
There you go.
And you don't, you're not.
And so when I'm reading this, you know, I'm looking at this choice and this agency and the attribution, basically saying that, you know, women are taught to be sort of these non-assertive, non-aggressive. And I don't condone aggressiveness, you know, except in an extreme situation. Assertiveness, totally down with assertiveness, that idea of asserting yourself while still trying to be respectful of others, but not letting yourself be walked on. I completely am down with that. But it talks about the idea of them not wanting to be out, and the reasons they're not out, and how that's their choice to kind of keep the head low. And while I get it, it's sort of, and I don't mean a shame like as in shameful for them, but I mean it's kind of a shame for us that we can't have those people as open advocates, because while she says, you know, there's like one part where she says something like that they counter this idea of like the angry atheist, but it's like you really don't when you're not out. You're not countering any narrative when you're silent about your atheism. You're countering nothing. You're hiding. And there are reasons to hide. And you don't have to have a reason to not be out. You can choose to not be out, and that's your choice. And I have to live with that and say, okay, you know, I can't make you be out. But when I see these women, it's like I really wish there were more people walking around with you who were just like average people that weren't, you know, saying nasty things, that weren't presenting in ugly, aggressive ways, that other people would have to say, that's a really, really sweet person, and you can't not like them, and they're atheist. I wish there was so many more. Yeah. I mean, I meet them, you know, but I don't know that the public sees them that much. We see them a lot in the community. Tons of people who are involved in like humanist efforts and good things and are wonderful people. But still, somehow the negative atheist narrative endures.
The rest of the article does have examples where the women would would stand up for what they believed or have conversations with people. It depends on the person, of course. I don't think they're all trying to be doormats in order to keep the peace. But there were three main areas of life in which their atheism became what she calls either flashpoints. Yeah, flashpoints. And that one of them was atheist women and rites of passage. So weddings, christenings, and funerals. So at these points, the women said that these were the points at which they had to stand up for what they did not believe most frequently.
Right.
And
because religion owns those rituals.
Right.
I mean, they have claimed ownership, and they don't let anybody else touch it.